Hello, welcome back. Standard deck tech again for Master of the Machines. In today's build, we take a look at the mono red burn sort of thing that is now has some new upgrades from this new set. So this list again was user submitted. We call this one as the standard regatta burn, maybe because of the new card inclusion here that we call this one as the which one? The invasion of regatta. So this battle, as you can see here, the 3-2 cast enters the battlefield. It deals 4 damage to another target battle or opponent, and 1 damage to up to 1 target creature. But we're able to flip this one. You could get this purpose of the Disciples of the Inferno. It is a 4/4 human monk with prowess. If a non-creature source you control would deal damage to a creature or battle or an opponent, that's quite a lot of targets. It deals that much damage plus 2 instead. So this is sort of the additional damage source, like Furnace of Wrath-ish, given that it also has a body of a 4/4 with a good palm ability with a prowess trigger. So how do we go with the setup of this deck? We'll take a look at the breakdown. So we have already 4 copies of the Invasion for the battle card. We have 4 enchantments for the command of Faces Kakasan, 13 creatures, 12 instants, 5 sorceries, and 22 lands, along with some sideboard here, which we're going to discuss in a bit. So we're going to start with again with the creature choices. Again, Monetary Sphere is probably the best one drop here, which is still legal in standard gameplay. So 4 copies of those. We also have Phoenix Chick, which is also a good way to do some early damage because of the hasty in flyer, which means that early blockers will not really be able to block it. At the same time, in the late game, you can have this trigger that if you're attacked with 3 or more creatures, you can pay 2 red and it becomes a 2/2 because of the additional plus counter, and also tap in attacking from your graveyard. In addition, we also have 2 copies of Kissing Flame Breather. It is a 2 cast 1/3. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it will deal 1 damage to each opponent. So another sort of the prowess effect, but the bonus here is that you would have this free damage in which every damage count, and it's important that you would be able to curve this out well with your spells or your burn spells, to be specific. And that we have this new card, the Kenra Spells Spear. That's more of a similarity to the Swift Spear because now this 2/2 cast 2/2 with the trample and prowess ability. What's good here is that being an aggro player, you would not really need to pay for the blue mana cost, but rather pay 2 life by turn 3 to flip this one. But the only drawback is that you would be able to flip this only as a sorcery speed. But the good news is that you can have this turn into Get Action Spell Stalker, that is Praxian Jackal, a 3/3 Trample Ward Prowess. So it's instant prowess triggers separately. It's very much very efficient. For example, you cast Play with Fire, you get prowess trigger twice, and it also becomes having this one as a 5/5 creature instead, for just only 1 trigger of your casting of those prowess ability. And so we have to make sure that you can curve this out pretty well. So having 4 copies of this in the deck is the best option. So again, command of Faces Kakasan is basically a good 1 drop here, which also turns into itching later on. And for our burn spells, aside from the usual Play with Fire and Lightning Strike, we also added the Stoke the Flames as a reprint, the card from way back the Jeskai standard concept art here. So we have now a new option here to have this one as a 4 to cast 4 damage on a target, but you can be able to convoke this one. And in addition to that, we have the 5 sorceries. So this is now the new version of the Reckless Impulse. If you're familiar with that card from Crimson Bow, this is just basically a functional reprint, and also having the same purpose of that, having to exile top 2 cards and making sure that you can be able to play them until the end of your next turn. So that is 4 copies, and have also a single copy of the Nihilist for crafting. This is a 3 to cast sorcery, and you can deal 5 damage to target creature, planeswalker, or battle. And looking at the top X cards, but that is also depend on the excess damage that dealt with. So it would not really matter here, but the purpose here is that you would be able to kill off a dude all 5 damage to a relevant creature or planeswalker. or even for your battle if needed. So for example, you can just kill up deal 5 damage to Invasion Brigata to be able to flip this one into Disciples of the Inferno. So that of this deck in the main deck, which curves up with the 22 lands, with only 2 man lands here with the Mishra's Foundry and a lone copy of Sukensan Crucible Defiance. Now for this build, you can see that curving out well would be pretty relevant and significant. At the same time, being able to flip some of these battles would provide more creature threats, and also improving Kenra Spell Spear into a Spell Stalker in this version. Now, how do we go with the sideboards? We have these 15 card choices, which are just basically going with typical matchups and would be the expecting one. So this one is the good example here, the Lithomantic Barrage. This is one to cast Sorcery Spear spell that can be countered. It can deal 1 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and it deals 5 damage instead if the creature is white or blue. So any target creature that is relevant, specifically those maybe for the soldiers aggro or anything, is that they can be able to deal 5 damage to it for only 1 mana, and at the same time this can be countered. But only the problem here is that protection abilities would really prevent it from resolving. Anywho, we have 4 copies of these to make sure that you can go ahead aggroing any white-based aggro matchups and gain advantage against it. So we also have 4 copies of the Furnace Punisher. This is a 3 to cast 3/3. Menace, which plays upkeep, it will deal 2 damage to that player unless they control 2 or more basic lands. So in this matchup, you can basically have to deal on those damage for matchups with you can say the mid-range, the 5-color decks, Atraxa, or maybe on the Grixis decks, in which this Punisher would really do their thing of punishing those opponents that has not controlling 2 or more basic lands. So 4 copies of that in the sideboard. We also have additional Nahiris Warcrafting here, so that we're able to also have the purpose of dealing 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. And if there's instance that we would need to deal the same damage to creatures with a lesser toughness, you can just have this bonus also to draw or looking at the Apex card library and exiling one of those two so that you can be able to cast that exiled card. And last but not the least is 3 copies of this is Vampire's Vengeance. This is just the pimp version. It will deal 2 damage to each non-vampire creature and create a blood token. So that's bonus here in cases that you can face decks such as other aggro decks that has 2 toughness or lesser, and also with the tokens matchup. It might be some instance where you won't be able to face those. Then this Vampire's Vengeance will be your best answer to their matchups and be able to wipe out their board. At the same time, if it will also trigger prowess, since this is only 2 damage, you can basically have the Swift Sphere goes with a 2/3, so it will survive the 2 damage effect, the same way that of the Kenra Spell Spear to also become a 3/3 in this instance. And also, kasi Flame Beater is also 3 toughness, so the 2 damage would not really matter and it will still live on that setup. So I guess that's about it. This deck, mana curve would basically go with 1.95, that's between 1 and 2. The most of the at max would be the 1 mana cost followed by the second mana cost, so 2 mana cost with it. And Stockblood Flames can also be considered here as a 3 or 2 mana cost because of the Convoke ability. And at the same time, I think your highest mana cost here would only become that of the Regatta and Nahiris Warcrafting in the main deck. And your tokens, we have Blood Token, Monk, and Spirit. So extra is the emblem from that of Jaya Fairy Negotiator. So that's about it for this deck. I think I'm seeing this one would be very easy to build now with the setup, since we would only need Stoke the Flames and Kenra as your upgrade here, along with the uncommon Invasion Brigata, since these are just very cheap to acquire. Also, Ren's Resolve would also become a common card, and Warcrafting is also very cheap at the moment. As you can see here, the price would be just not over $1 for this setup. So again, thank you for checking this video. It is just a wrap up of our March of the Machines standard Regatta burn deck, and I hope you like and subscribe for more of these deck techs that we can discuss in future videos. Again, guys, thank you for checking this one, and see you on the next video.